Awesome. I am so excited for another speaker spotlight. Looking forward to AWE USA 2024. Today I'm talking with Greg Downing, an Emmy winning XR storyteller and CEO of Hyperacuity. Greg, thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course, happy to be here.
You do the kinds of things I am so very curious about. Can you please take a moment to introduce yourself and what you do in spatial computing?
So, what I'm really passionate about is sharing the thrill of discovery. And I do that by capturing what I feel are some of the most interesting places and things in the world, and then sharing them with people through spatial computing. I worked on a series with Bjork, a VR album with her called Volcanera, and I presented that at AWE in 2015. I've done work with Google, capturing some of the first light fields to go into virtual reality. My work has taken me to exotic locations, northwestern China, Silk Road caves, Machu Picchu, crawled through tunnels underneath Tikal in Guatemala. I've gotten to go to Egypt and other amazing places, kind of tell humanity's story.
There's so many good things that you just called out there. I did notice you mentioned that you were presenting at AWE all the way back in 2015.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. 2015, we gave a presentation on the work that we were doing with Bjork. So we worked on the Black Lake installation that was part of her MoMA exhibit, and that was done spatially. We also worked on multiple pieces of her Volcanera VR album. And it was incredible. We got to fly in helicopters over amazing Icelandic landscapes, crawl through lava tubes underneath the landscape, moss covered fields and volcanoes. It was an epic trip. And in those days, there wasn't such good off the shelf drones. So we had to build our own drone so that we could do aerial photogrammetry of it. And we presented all that at AWE and got to share that with the audience there.
Bringing some of my most favorite things in the world together. Bjork, the art world, XR. So exciting. I'm curious, what keeps you coming back to AWE after all these years?
Yeah, it's the community. It's also an opportunity to really keep my finger on the pulse about what's happening. And I guess what we're all calling now is spatial computing is figuring out, what we can do with this amazing medium.
You're a bit of an explorer, and it seems like you really like pushing the edges of what's possible. I know from almost everyone that I've talked to, everybody who works in the XR space has some sort of aha moment where they really fell in love with the technology. They understood what was possible. Can you tell us what was your XR origin story?
Sure. In the year 2000, I was working as a spherical panoramic photographer. And to me, that was new technology and an opportunity to explore new creative worlds. And I came to the SIGGRAPH conference that was in New Orleans. And that's where I first experienced virtual reality. And I put on a VR headset, and it was very primitive compared to what we have today. It was incredibly expensive. And it was a bunch of little screens behind the lens, and you could see the bezels between all the little screens that they tiled together. But the impact was huge, and I could see where this was all going. And I thought, like, man, this is what I want to do with my life. And I was like, this is right around the corner. It's about to happen. Now, I was in my 20s and I didn't have the benefits of age. All I saw was that tech, whatever tech I was interested in, just got cheaper and cheaper and better. So I figured that's what was going to happen with VR. And I was totally wrong. I What I didn't understand was that it also required scale, and that we didn't get that scale until cell phones happened. And when we got the smartphones and they could shrink those little IMU chips down to the size of a grain of rice, and they could make them for a few pennies a piece. And when they got all the displays really small for those same devices, that's when VR happened. So I had to wait an additional 12 years before I finally got to start working in VR.
That's amazing. That SIGGRAPH experience is like 7 years before the iPhone.
Well, I
Have
remember 'cause one of the things I was trying to do at SIGGRAPH was to buy an IMU, and at that time, it was a giant chunky piece of metal, and they were $1,000 a piece. So that changed. I wanted one to mount on my camera.
shout out as well to our partners, SIGGRAPH. They just celebrated their 50th anniversary in
That's
Los
right.
Angeles, and AWE is headed to the Los Angeles area in Long Beach for our 15th anniversary. This year, we're really looking at the anniversary from a couple different perspectives, both in terms of the breakthrough year in technology that we're already seeing, as well as the moments in history and the advancements that you've talked about that brought us to this moment. Can you tell us about any breakthroughs in XR history that you've been a part of?
Yeah, yeah. I I was lucky to get to contribute to a couple of interesting projects. Probably the first one that comes to mind is in 2006. That's the first actual XR related project that I got to do, and that was a an installation for the national parks that we did, and we built a kind of home-brewed VR headset. We used a VU's headset and a separate tracker, and then we had to write cobble together pieces and write little bits of software that would smooth out the information we're getting from the tracker. And that was the first piece that I got involved with, and that might have been the first piece for the national parks. The other piece that I got to work on that was really exciting from a historical context is Google's Welcome to Light Fields. This was really interesting because this was the first time that we got to bring radiance fields into virtual reality and explore them the same way we could explore other types of 3D data. So, if you're not familiar with radiance fields or light fields, it's all part of the same class that NERFs and Gaussian splats are part of. So, it was kind of the precursor to that technology. But the second we got to see that in virtual reality, it was incredibly exciting.
Oh, that's so cool to be at the cutting edge of some of those foundational technologies that again, to bring it back to the mobile phone, people can now do on an iPhone. Who should come to your talk and what are you excited to share from the stage?
Yeah. I think that the people who should come to my talk are anyone who's interested in capturing photoreal captures of the real world and bring some of the most interesting places to their user audiences. I think that another audience that will also be interested is anyone who is interested in high adventure. This is going to be a story about capturing locations that are rarefied and difficult to get to. I love adventure. I'm an adventurer, I'm an explorer, and I love to do captures, in some of the most amazing and difficult to get to locations, and then bring people that could never experience these to these places through spatial computing. I've gotten to do this underwater. I've gotten to do it, deep in caves underground. I've gotten to now do it from the side of El Capitan, and that's going to be my presentation is about. So I did a completely vertical production over the course of 4 days. So camping out on the cliff face for 4 days, on rope the entire time, holding poles out, doing a photogrammetric capture of the surface. And the scan came out so detailed that you can see every rock, pebble, and crack on that surface. So you really get the feeling that you could just reach out and grab these rocks, and you really get to see what it took for the climbers that climb that rock to get up that surface. You really feel the reality of it. So this has got a kind of a special twist when it comes to capture.
Even the OGs and experts in XR come to AW to learn and to check in with their peers about what is possible. What are you hoping to learn at AWE, and what questions are you bringing to ask others?
I think there's a lot to learn right now. It is a unique time. What we're experiencing right now is kind of a series of stacked revolutions. We've got the hardware revolution that we're all facing right now, and that the hardware is getting incredibly good. So we've been in the midst of that. And now we have on top of that an AI revolution. So we're getting a revolution in hardware and a revolution in software. These are like two waves that are coming that are now stacked on top of one another. And I think that that's going to make this just an incredibly exciting AWE.
I could not agree more. We at AWE are very interested in that merger of AI and XR and how they kind of seem like each can't live without the other.
There are capabilities that we're going to have. We're just going to see things moving incredibly fast and just move by leaps and bounds. And that's going to bring all kinds of opportunities.
Well, Greg Downing, mountain climbing, world adventuring, award winning XR producer and reality capture expert. I am so excited to come to your neck of the woods in Long Beach, California this June to hear your talk at AWA USA. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's really a pleasure.
Thank you. Pleasure is mine.